You're Anna, and welcome to FM Tahiti. I hope you're doing well. I'm just going to go through a few tactical things this episode. So this one might actually be quite short for once, rather than a huge long ramble about stuff. This will be rambling, but it's just going to be about some of the tactics. So I'm in the kind of mid-season. I've been reading around, and to put it all into context, I love playing Longball. I love playing that kind of hoofball. If I could have my way, my team would basically just be the crazy gang. But you can't really get the kind of physical intimidation side into it, which I try, which is why Tackle Hard is always going to be on for pretty much all the tactics I play. You can't quite get that psychological intimidation and edge in, but I do like the idea of the long ball. And that's partly because of the kind of crazy gang style football and that kind of David and Goliath, or psychopathic David and Goliath story that goes along with it. Because I always play as small teams, having that kind of long ball thing fits in quite well with it. But if you read around, you read things like Inverting the Pyramid, if you read in the Mixer, there's quite a few books on statistics in football as well, and I love statistics. Hoofball actually, or long ball, actually has a lot of basis in statistics. Not particularly good basis in statistics. If you read around, you've heard of Charles Reap, who was trying to investigate what's the kind of optimal number of passes it took to score. So the fewer the passes, the better, in his research essentially, or the more likely you were to actually score a goal. The more passes you make, the less likely you are to score a goal, and so on. Really simplistic, but it kind of took on. It got kind of co-opted by the FA and was presented as one of the ways it kind of should be done. The actual statistics it's based on are flawed. The assumptions within it are horribly flawed. I won't go over that, because you should buy Inverting the Pyramid or similar books and read that instead. But obviously then people did play long ball, and some people made it work quite well, because they were doing more than just the statistics side of it. So obviously Graham Taylor had lots of success with it, with smaller clubs doing quite well. If it wasn't for his kind of mishap with England, essentially, where he was a bit unfortunate in some cases, it could have been another example of this kind of long ball or direct ball working well. And there's some good videos where he explains the difference of the long ball to the person and long ball into the space and that kind of thing. So it was really good. And then you've got people like Big Sam and Tony Pulis who get kind of a bad rap. They do get a bad rap for playing boring, long ball, kind of thuggish-ish football. But actually, at the time, Sam Allardyce was on the kind of cutting edge of a lot of technology and statistics and things like that, using things like positions of maximum opportunity, or POMOs and things like that, to try and work out where the best place is to get the ball to make the most of a shooting or scoring or attacking chance. And he had actually, if you look at his original kind of Bolton side, he had a blend of a kind of attacking flair and things with people like JJ Okocha and the kind of more pragmatic, direct elements to it. And if you look at Tony Pulis as well, he's probably not got that same attacking flair, but actually tactically he's quite nuanced. So things like the way I set up my fullbacks a lot of the time is based on stuff I've kind of learnt from articles on Tony Pulis, which I might go into in a second. Also, he uses statistics quite a lot. So there was, if I can find the link, I'll put it in the description. But there was a breakdown of the statistics that West Brom under Tony Pulis were using for getting the deliveries of free kicks and crosses. So they had found essentially a sweet spot for them in their routines, where it was just on the edge of the box in the kind of right-hand third or centre to right-hand third. And basically this was their sweet spot. If they could get it in there, they'd maximise their chance of scoring, and they were just delivering it there relentlessly. And if you look at things like the Rory Delap long throw, which are frankly I think a thing of beauty, even though they're not the kind of beautiful total football kind of beauty, it's using things like that to maximise it. It's really getting down to the kind of nuts and bolts of it and tweaking it. And it's not always the prettiest football, but there is a kind of beauty to that direct style where someone suddenly knocks it down and gets it in, or you've got a very kind of direct physical duel that is then, enhanced by the skill of the individual players and the tactical nous and that kind of stuff. But basically that's why I want to play the long ball. It also helps that my team is terrible in terms of their standards. So they're probably still only Vanarama-ish players, and a lot of the players and a lot of the teams I use are like that, so it fits in nicely with it. And if you go to the Sports Interactive forum, actually, I'm on there. My username is Pelljam on that, and in the Tactics forum there's a big thread where we're talking about Hoofball and different tactics from different versions of FM as well. It kind of spreads across. And if you're interested in it, have a look at that thread. There's quite a bit on there. And also I'm going to have a blog post that goes through these tactics in a different kind of angle as well, which should be out when this video goes out too. So check the blog out too. So here's my 4-4-2. This is my standard. This is my 4-4 humping 2. And standard 4-4-2 shape. I changed very little from the presets, and I'll show you what I did change. So when you use the presets, the tactical style and the things like that already exist, you'll actually be given something that looks very similar to this. In fact, the only major difference you'll find is that these are on support. The fullbacks are on support rather than defend. I've done a few things kind of under the hood. So it's on a cautious mentality. The attacking one just doesn't seem to work. We just seem to get caught out with that. But if we look at how we are in possession, so we attack quite wide because, and this is where I've adjusted it slightly, the default's to play it quite narrow to get the ball down the centre to the strikers, but crossing works quite well on the game. And for me, I'm quite happy for the long ball either to come sort of vertically or kind of diagonally, horizontally if need be. So I'm quite happy for the ball to either be played over the top directly to the strikers, or to come from the wings, from the wingers, or from slightly deep in a kind of long diagonal ball from the full-backs. So I'm happy with that, which is why I've added a bit more width. I don't want the team to pass into space because of the striker setup I've got with the pressing forward and the target man. The way they are now works quite well. If they suddenly pass into space, the target man would get left behind a little bit, especially because they're more kind of immobile. It would work quite well for the pressing forward, but not so much for the target man. Passing's obviously on extremely direct. Tempo's quite high, so we get those balls out there quickly, but not too quickly. And time wasting I've turned all the way down to the bottom. So on the default, it's about halfway there. I don't really want to waste time. I don't want to keep hold of the ball just for the sake of keeping hold of it. I want to try and probe and pass. So I've taken that off. This is one of the things I sometimes tweak with though. I want us to play for set pieces, and I want us to hit early crosses to get the ball into the box. I don't want us waiting around. Sometimes I be more disciplined on if I think the team is straying a little bit from the instructions, but for the default I kind of leave it as it is. So that's when we're in possession. When we're in transition, again I've kept a lot of this very close to the original. So we regroup when we lose possession to keep that defensive shape. We counter when we've won the possession because we want to see if we can get those long balls over quickly. The keeper's going to distribute quickly, and I'm going to get him to distribute it to the target man where possible. So he's going to be doing long kicks. I did originally have him roll it out to the centre-backs or to the full-backs, but actually I realised I can't trust them to do that. And instead of taking the ball and then going long, they were taking the ball and then going short, or pushing up and going short, and then we were getting caught in this kind of attacking midfielder strata when we actually wanted to go long. So we're going to go long from the off. When we're out of possession, we've got a much lower kind of defensive line to try and draw them onto us, essentially. So if they get drawn onto us and we get possession back, hopefully they'll be out of position, so the long ball will work a little bit better. That's my theory anyway, and it could be completely wrong. I'm going to mark tightly, press reasonably urgently. I'm going to prevent the goalkeeper from distributing or prevent the short distribution. So we've got the pressing forward who's going to be running around nipping at people's heels, so that should help with that. And we're going to get stuck in because I want them to hurt them. Crazy Gang style. Now in terms of the player instructions, this is my fullback kind of instructions. It's mirrored on the other side. So they're fullbacks on defend rather than support, which is the default. I've told them to aim for the target man. So when they're crossing in for the target man, take fewer risks, but to cross from deep. So they're not going to wait until they go into the attacking third to do it. They'll do it from a little bit deeper, and where possible they'll hold position. And the reason I want this is because of that Tony Pulis kind of thing I mentioned. So Tony Pulis has a habit, or had a habit, of playing fullbacks that looked a lot more like centre-backs. So tall, strong, not particularly good at going forward to attack, or they were less likely to get forward and attack. And that's because if your fullbacks push forward to attack, they leave space behind them. So if you're going for the underlap or overlap or things like that, or just want them to be attacking fullbacks or wingbacks, as they go forwards, there's space behind them. That's common sense. But my wingers are already going to be going forwards because they're wingers. One's on attack as well. So if they go forward and they go forward, I'll be exposed along those flanks and the balls can go in behind, or if they'd have to beat many people to get behind. So there's kind of a vulnerability. And what Tony Pulis did to kind of offset that was just basically have lumps of players that are a bit like centre-backs in the full-back position, and they're there to act defensively and then clear the ball. They're not contributing as much to the kind of final attack. So that's why I've changed them like that. So I'm making it clear they're still going for the target man, they're still going to put those crosses in, but they're not going to get forward. Centre-backs are on the default no-nonsense, because I just want to get rid of it. And then every player, or every other player, has had shoot less often added to them. So I've not actually changed or added too much to this. And the idea here is that the ball-winning midfielder helps defensively and clears up and regains possession. The box-to-box can arrive, hopefully, later on and pick up balls from the target man if need be. The winger's going to be going and putting crosses in. The attacking winger is potentially going to get on the end of some of the crosses and push them a little bit. And what I try to do is, if I swap these two around, so I've got the sporting role on this side, then this attacking role would go over and kind of vice versa. And then up front, this is the default pairing. If you put it on 4-4-2 long ball with the defaults, you'll get a pressing forward and a target man, and they tend to work quite well. The target man's either going to head the ball on and try and score himself, or he's going to flick it onto the pressing forward or the winger or the box midfielder if they've got up there. The pressing forward's just hounding that last man, picking up scraps, and he's always there for the long ball. He runs on to quite a lot of long passes. So that's my default. But what I've noticed is, from looking at the analysis, so if you go to the tactics analysis, look at the goals. If we look at the goal assists, we have a lot that are coming from short passes. So we had a lot of the last 15 matches or so. And what I was also noticing in the actual gameplay, so just from watching matches themselves, is that we were getting into this kind of position a lot of the time and passing it around. And we were kind of passing from left to right across here and kind of probing around, which is good if that's what I told them to do, but it's not. What I wanted them to do is basically have the ball in this half and kick it long, or get to here and then panic and kick it long and get kind of altitude sickness. But what they're doing is they're passing it backwards and forwards there, and it wasn't always the most incisive. And I know some of these short passes are actually short passes where the target man's knocked it down and passed it on, or something like that. So it's not all just because the balls will be coming from here, but the general build-up play, I was getting a lot of highlights where they weren't playing the way I wanted them to. They weren't necessarily playing badly, but I wanted to watch them play hoofball, and they weren't doing that. So that's why, if we go back to the tactics, I've gone for this second one. So the 4-1-3-2 DM asymmetric wailing on them formation. Very similar instructions to the 4-4-2. And the only main difference we have here is this centre pairing. So in this one, it's not going to be Lee doing it. We've got an anchor man, so it'll probably be Weaver playing as the anchor man to shield the defence. And when he gets the ball, he's going to be quite deep, which means when he passes, he's either going to be passing out to the wingers, passing to this playmaker, or going long. This playmaker is a deep line playmaker, so he's going to be a little bit more withdrawn, so he's not going to be getting up here all the time. And if it comes to him, then he's hopefully going to be spraying the ball either long, over the top, or to the wingers. By having them like this, hopefully, it protects the back a little bit more, so maybe it'll be a little bit more kind of defensively sound. But also, they're not getting forwards as much. It's not like having the box-to-box and the ball winning. Their positioning now should mean, if I've done this correctly, which is entirely possible. I've not done. They should be much deeper, so we should get less of this short passing in this area and more long balls. So I want to try that one out. And then my third one is a bit of a change from the other two in that I still want to go long ball, I still want to have target men, but this time it's going to be wide target men. So I was looking around to see what I could do with wide target men. I found a really good article on it from Dictate the Game. So if you go to the Dictate the Game blog, or I put the link into one of my tweets, so you can have a look at it there as well if you want. And it was explaining kind of how Eagle Olsen had used longball as well, so he's one of the kind of proponents of longball back in the 90s, and how wide target man was used essentially to bully fullbacks, so shorter, weaker fullbacks, and then cross or flick the ball into the area or onto on-running kind of strikers or midfielders, so that they become kind of like a weird creative force, but basically you've just got battering rams on either wing who are then going to pass or flick the ball on. And essentially, if they're strong or you're playing against a team that's strong in the middle, you're ignoring that and then picking off the weak points with their fullbacks if they've got them. If it's a team without any fullbacks, or they've got wing backs, or the fullbacks are maybe on attack or something like that instead, this could, in theory, work really well because this space should be easier to exploit. So these balls that are going to be going towards them, so that they'll be targeted a lot more, should mean they can exploit that space. It gets them quickly. This forms like a kind of anchor in the middle, so defensively it's okay. But these other players here, so again, the back line's pretty much the same as it always was. We've got an anchor man. We've got box-to-box midfielder again and a central midfielder on attack. So these two players should actually try and get into this space here. So they'll be ready for any balls flicked on or passed or crossed by these wide target men. But also there's the pressing forward here, so hopefully actually he'll get a few balls through as well from these target men if need be. And that's kind of how I want that to work. Now there's some kind of flaws with the space, and I'll show you the instructions in a second. One issue here is there's all this space. So if they get players in this space here, these wide target men aren't going to be doing much defensively. They'll get a clean run at these fullbacks. So these fullbacks are a bit exposed. They're going to stay in position. They're not, because I've got the kind of Tony Pulis commands on them. So they'll stay in position, but they're going to be attacked a lot potentially if they've got normal wingers, or if they've got their own kind of attacking midfielders on the wing. But hopefully they can take that pressure and they can deal with that. In terms of the instructions, well, the attacking width is quite narrow. I don't think I wanted that. There we go. See, I've noticed something. So we want it to be wide to get to the wide target men. There's no point trying to play it through the middle, because even though we've got these three here and that striker, what we really want is the wide target man to be used. Focusing our play down the left and down the right, just to kind of emphasise the wide target men we've got going on there. We want to hit early crosses still, because we've got target men up there. So if we attack down the right, then the target man on the left might be free for crosses and vice versa, and also we've got the pressing forward there. We still want to play for set pieces. I told them to be more disciplined, so they stick to their roles. So they might find playing with wide target men a bit different. So this tactic is a bit more complex than the 4-4-2. So I want them to be disciplined and stick with that. Direct passing, high tempo, and let's get time wasting down. I don't know why it's done that. Again, we want to regroup and then counter, much like the other tactics. But we want the goalkeeper now to distribute to the flanks. I want to do it quickly. So I'm noticing things. I think maybe I just didn't save it when I finished it last time. So you want them to distribute to the flanks, because that's where the target men are going to be. I did consider ticking the distribute to target man box. But we've got two target men. So I don't know what they're doing. Also, because it looks central, I'm wondering if that's just assuming a central target man, so it'll be a central distribution rather than the flanks. So I've stuck with the flanks, because that means it should go to the target men no matter what. And again, low defensive line. Go for this kind of standard pressing because I don't want players to be pulled too far out of position for this one, especially the fullbacks. Still get stuck in, still tighter, still defend in narrow fashion. So those are my 3 tactics, and I'm hoping to use them and rotate them through the season. I need to recruit new players for the wide target men roles. I'm looking forward to it. Even if it goes horribly wrong, I'm going to look forward to it. And I'm probably around the halfway mark, depending how much I've used it. I might do another tactical kind of ramble to show you how I've tweaked it. If I've tweaked it, maybe it's perfect and I'm a genius. But probably not. Probably not for this. So there we go. Thanks for listening to this. Have a look on the blog for the other tactical breakdown. If I've made any glaring tactical errors, just tell me so I can fix it. I'm sure some of the glaring errors will become obvious if I get absolutely destroyed by some teams, but if anything can be improved, let me know on YouTube, on Twitter, or whatever. So thanks very much for watching. Go humpbacks, and hopefully we will destroy the league using these tactics.